Okay, here we are. We're live again. It is another episode of Chiropractic is Sexy. I'm Dr. Paula Ruffin.
I'm Dr. Erica Peabody, and Thursday rolls around quick.
It does, doesn't it? And so it's been a week and a half since we've been here. We did our last show last Tuesday, and I want to thank everybody who came in on Tuesday with us because that was really fun. When we're trying to be consistent, so you all know when we're here for you. But it was great to see everybody show up on Tuesday for us, and we had a couple people that jumped in afterwards, but watched the replay because they forgot that we made the change. But in general, we really appreciate you guys engaging and being here for us because, that's why we're here, is we're here to make this happen for you and bring you our insights on health, wellness, and practice. What do we experience in our practices and how can that benefit you in your lives? So, So how are you doing, Erica?
I'm doing well. Just, I'm astounded at how quickly the weeks go by and the days go by, and just realizing it's almost like a daily realization lately of like, just be sure we're squeezing the most juice out of each day, because we're moving into, the third or second week in May. That's the 5th month of the year. Like, where are we checking in health wise as far as what we wanted to do with our lives and health this year? And it's quick. Everything's quick.
Quick. To that point, I will recap with you and share with the audience. I went to San Jose. Flew into San Francisco, went down to San Jose to visit Palmer Chiropractic College West, which is where I went to school. There is a Palmer in Iowa, which is the original chiropractic college, the very first one ever. There's Palmer, Florida, and there's Palmer West in San Jose. And they are closing the school down next year because of enrollment. They just can't get people to come to California because it's too expensive. So enrollment's been way down. So they've chosen to close the school. So I was very fortunate to be able to go out there and visit. And I went with another colleague of mine, a good friend who lives in Florida, and they had this big Q&A for us with the students. And the surreal part of it was that it feels like 26 years ago was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it
oh my gosh,
I pulled into the parking lot and I started crying. And then I pull into a parking space and she comes out the front doors and she's crying. Her husband thinks we're both crazy. He's like, it's just school. I'm like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
We spent 3.5 years every single day here with the same people. And it feels like yesterday. Mm-hmm. And it feels like, it feels like we were just sitting in those chairs and people like us with these years of clinical practice were coming to visit us and give them our insights and our wisdom. We were like, wow, 20 years. Oh my God. It was very surreal. So yes, embrace it because we blinked and here we are, right?
So I did that nostalgia tour, which I went back to the 2 chiropractic colleges I attended. And the reason I did 2 is one of them politically just had issues with the accreditation. And so I had to transfer up to Sherman. And it's not where I really wanted to be, but to step back there, like I've always supported Life University in Atlanta, Georgia, but Sherman is truly my alma mater. And to step back there was just like a same thing. Something about it is so much of life and turning into an adult and get in the graduate program and a terminal degree and all the things. Like, it's really intense. And what people don't necessarily realize is that what it takes to get a doctorate, and this is not to toot our horns at all, but it is a very intense program, very, to the point where you basically eat, sleep, and breathe school. But when I say that, it's also, we had mandatory attendance, and it was like there were 150 people in classes along the way, 200 total for our student body, but 150 students in one class, and they're taking attendance. And they really were taking attendance because you literally couldn't skip. So it's 35 hours of mandatory butts in seats. You become part of that school, part of the existence and part of your friends' families and life, truly life existence together. That is why I go to Denver a lot. That's where all my chiropractor friends, and not every single one of them, but a lot of them are there. We just have those deep ties of blood, sweat, and tears. So yeah, it's so special to be able to go back.
Yeah,
Really, really
the
is.
memories that just come flooding through. And I went and I looked into our classroom, and it's a storage room now. It was like,
Mhm.
and I was, I was just kind of like just walking through the halls, having just those memories, the reminiscing of every day what we did and who we connected with,
Mhm.
and I don't personally, I don't remember attendance being taken. I'm sure it was, but I couldn't imagine skipping class.
Right.
I mean, if you missed one
You're in
class, you were
trouble. Mhm.
screwed, right?
Mhm.
So, and I actually had friends who skipped class, and I'm like, how can you skip class? And I remember this one woman in my class, and she would not skip frequently, but often enough. And she was always, she didn't study. She was just like and she's still a chiropractor, so we'll just say that. I don't know if she's practicing today, but I remember at one time I was trying to like help tutor her a little bit, and I was like some neuroanatomy examination, and I was trying to explain something. I don't even remember what it was I was explaining, but it was really high level stuff. And she couldn't grasp it. And I go, well, and I remember saying it's part of fasciculus cuneatus and gracilis. Now, why do I remember that? I have no idea. Those are part of the spinal tracts in the neck that control the upper and lower extremities. I have no idea why I remember those terms, but I did. And I said, do you not know what that is? She's like, I have no idea what that is. I'm like, dude, we learned that like in first quarter. We're like 2 years in at this point. And I'm like, if you don't know
Yes.
fasciculus cuneatus and gracilis, like, oh my God, like you've missed the past 2 years. And I remember like yelling at her on the phone. I'm like, where have you been? Like, what is God's name?
Yeah. Well, I know we took attendance because my group of friends and I, in one particular class, attendance for 95 to 150 people, like that's like present, 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 present. So we started attendance music. So someone would start tapping their pen, and someone would start like doing a scrunching paper, and someone would get like a beatbox going, and we would do this. We literally, in just the hours of studying, the hours and hours and hours of studying and school and classes, and we don't get a summer break. Like it's 4 years for solid years. So anyway, yeah, it's remarkable to be able to go back. And also it's the reason why the doctorate is the doctorate, because of how much it becomes part of our physiology, our anatomy and physiology, like it's ingrained in us. So like I had a patient on the table this morning who's in severe dementia, and sometimes she can get around and sometimes she can't get around. And I have to pull in, her family gets her on and off the table, but she comes in a wheelchair, and I have to get her adjusted. But it's also like, and nutrition matters, and how the body's, like what we're doing with the body matters, and sensory input, and movement and sleep. And so we're reviewing those 6 things that I talk about all the time. But it's like I go from that to, an infant, to a pregnant mom, to an elderly. And it's like the brain is doing all kinds of things. But it's so cool because I don't know everything. None of us know everything, but it's like we can just continually pull from all that stuff from school. And that's the reason why the doctorate is so intense, to get such an intense program, because it presents to us in our office every single day, all
Every
kinds of
day.
ways. I
Yeah.
had this one guy come in. In fact, I saw him at the grocery store once, and I was like, wow, that's a massive human, 6'9", 450. And the only reason why I know this is he came in the office 2 days later, and I'm reading on his paperwork, the intake paperwork says, how much do you weigh, how tall, 6'9", 450. So I had that going on. But then the next patient was a 5-pound preemie.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
so like all of the above and everything in between, and, school, and then the reps, truly like the reps of being out in practice, the repetition. And then it's just like, yeah, we can just do it all. We can do it all. We really can. It's just awesome. And when you look back 20 years ago, and that's when things were happening, like What? How?
How did I know blinked? Well,
No.
I love that the example of
Mhm.
the man and the preemie,
Yeah.
because how many people have you come across in practice and they're like, because all they can think about is an adult
Right.
being adjusted. But even in the adults, we have smaller framed people, we have larger framed people. And so how we put our hands on everyone and adjust everyone is very different even with adults.
Right.
So now we have babies. So people don't often think, well, we can adjust babies, because they're thinking about how those adults are adjusted. And it's like, yeah,
Right.
of course you'd rip a baby's head off if you adjusted them like an adult, but we are trained to be able to put our hands on people as appropriate.
Right.
So whether it's a 5-pound preemie or a 450-pound man,
Right.
we
Yeah.
know we know that.
Right,
So
that's the art. So chiropractic is built on art, science, and philosophy. So that's the art form, which is just knowing. But yeah, I mean, to adjust a baby is like pushing into, I always say, pushing into a super ripe tomato. Like that's the amount of pressure. And then of course, the guy that was 6'9" and 450, he was really easy to adjust.
isn't that
I mean, he was
interesting?
of course a football player back in his high school days, but yeah, it's a really beautiful thing. It's just
Yeah.
it's amazing,
Well,
truly.
I think about the intensity. I remember, it was within probably the first few days, and some instructors said, if you're married, the percentage of whoever's married, there was some high percentage of divorce being married going through chiropractic college, and I don't remember what it was, but they were right,
Mhm.
and most everybody had either broken up with their person's boyfriend, girlfriend, or had gotten divorced. So I was fortunate to be single at the time, because it was, so I remember, if I flash back to undergrad, and 14 credits at University of Michigan over a semester, a 12 weeks, 14 weeks. That was like, oh my God, I've got 14 credits. How am I going to
No.
do that? Well, chiropractic college was 34 to 36 credits a quarter,
Quarter.
which is 10 weeks. So
Mhm.
4 weeks last, more than double the
Mhm.
credits. So
Mhm.
the hours that we spent in class learning, and then the hours that we had to spend out of class learning, it really taught you to be able to manage and compartmentalize and streamline how we learn,
Right.
and how we manage ourselves in our lives. So I
Mhm.
think that also springboards into running a business. Like, we have
Yeah.
to take those strategies that we utilized in school and springboard to now.
Yep.
And I know for me, when I was in school, I was, I went from a very active lifestyle, as I'm sure you did too, to sitting on my ass, all those hours of the day. So I started getting sciatic pain. Well, not exercising was not an option for me. So I was up at 4:30 every morning. I was at the gym. Class started at 7:30. So I made it happen. Now, if you told me today I have to be up at 4:30 in the morning, if I wanted to exercise, I'd be like, no, because I don't have to.
Mhm.
Right. But I
Right.
had to. So this is also when people are like, oh, they don't have time. You have to find the time if it's really something that matters to you.
Well,
And
the other thing I talking to a patient yesterday about it, which is like basically find the time to take care of your health, or your body's going to find the time for you to make sure you're taking care of your health. And
Mhm.
that will become the only thing that you get to do, because you'll be just, you'll have a crisis of some sort. So just being the proactive, moving and shaking every day, truly every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Every day we don't get to, and sometimes like I had a new patient this morning and she's like, so can I go and work out after the adjustment? It's like, absolutely.
I know.
Absolutely. And then people will say, oh, I didn't do anything. I'm like, that's your problem. Like, get up off your booty and go do something with your body.
And there's
Um,
so many differentiations there. People will say, well, my last chiropractor told me I shouldn't exercise on the days I get adjusted, or I shouldn't exercise before I get adjusted, or I shouldn't exercise after I get adjusted. And I'm like, who made up these rules?
there's no
Like,
rules like that.
I know. I'm like, who made that up?
Well, so
Like,
Yeah, and it's funny because then this one, so she was referred in by a massage therapist, which God bless you, massage therapist, whoever sent her in, because if you just rake over the muscles and you don't get to the deep core, she'd never been adjusted ever. And she's an esthetician that leans over like this all day. And so anyway, she was sent in and then she said, so can I go get a massage and an adjustment in the same day? Yes. Can I go work out and get adjusted in the same day? Yes. So it's basically, it's just in conjunction with life, you can get adjusted. I mean, there are episodes where, you know, they're like severe low back, blah, 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 herniated disc, those kinds of things that we're working with. It's still, you still got to get out and get at least get walking. I always tell patients when you leave here, and I'm going to put up a sign on the doorway, like following your service, how about a 10-minute walk around the block? Just as a suggestion, give your body a minute before you sit back down in your car, deal with road rage and all the construction around here in particular. And then, you know, get on with your day. How about just a 10-minute walk around the block? I've been leaving my office, going around the block to do, put something in the mailbox. The post office is half a block. And I'm like, well, since I'm out, I'll do at least the rest of this block. And then since I'm out, I'll do another block since I'm already out here anyway with the dog. And so then it ends up to be a 20, 30-minute walk. And it's so lovely. It's a lovely kind of shift up. Put your phone down and just go for a walk instead. Yeah.
It makes such a difference,
It
doesn't it?
really does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I left you that note. We were gone over the weekend. I left you that note, but it was like, I was stuck in construction being rerouted. I had done some shopping and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I really just want to get out and walk. So I walked and talked with a girlfriend, but I left Dr. Paula a message at her office because I was like, oh, shoot, Paula's right here. She was in California, but you know, I got out and I walked for 45 minutes while chatting with a friend instead of not, you know what I mean? Like just there's easy ways to get movement. And then people are like, oh, well, you know, you need break days. We don't. We need to scale the intensity. Yes. Break day, never.
Right.
Never.
Always movement. I mean, even my hottest low back patients, my people who are in their extreme pain, I will tell them, crawl. You need to crawl around your house. That's because that movement will start to move the inflammation out of the lower back, out of that disc. And then when you're in that quadruped position, you get that lumbar curve, which starts to pull that disc down. So, you know, oftentimes people are like, I can't move, I can't do anything. And there is occasion if somebody's that extreme that, and I've been there, like it's hard to just freaking move. I get it. But that's you have to crawl before you can walk. And so at any cost, there's always something to do. And even if you can't, you know what you can do? You can breathe. Breathing is movement. So we want you to have every level, every layer of possibility of movement, regardless of where you're at. So we can get you to a place where you can move and walk with vigor and vitality every single day. That, you know, and that's the goal of chiropractic is how can we keep you flexible and functioning and happy in this, you know, crazy world we live in. So, great. When I was out in Napa last week, I was actually I didn't make a conscious effort, but I was pretty disconnected from social media. I just wasn't on my phone. I didn't really have the desire. I was looking at the vineyards and the mountains. And I was, you know, walking around in different areas and in little towns. And that to me that actually felt very freeing as well, to not feel like I needed to be on social media. So disconnect, like Dr. Erica said, get off your phone, take a walk. You know, and a lot of people, they'll put headphones in and listen to music or podcast. And I want to encourage you to not do that. Listen to the sounds of nature. Be with the thoughts in your own head. Quiet your mind. We have so much input over the course of the day that it's so important to stop the input. So whether that's not looking at your phone or feeding your auditory nerves something from, you know, again, a podcast or something, just get quiet. That alone is so healing and calming to the nervous system.
Yeah, that's so great. Are we on 18?
I think we're on 18.
Okay. So, of course, we continue on with the 33 principles of chiropractic only because we use it as a prompt to talk about different discussions, and we always just kind of start no matter what, and then halfway through the podcast, we're ready to actually get down to the principle. But that's also sort of our goal too. It's just like, let's just see where it unfolds. And I had a weekend with a group of chiropractors. There were 9 of us one night and 8 of us or 7 of us the next night, and it was so lovely to just be social and with chiropractors. So it just reignites all of the passion for what we're doing, and the conversations go just like this. We talk a little bit. We talk about life. We talk about living. We talk about practice. We talk about health, well-being. We talk about, you know what I mean? So anyway, number 18 is the union of intelligence, force, and matter, the triune of life. So we've been talking about this over and over and over and over and over, which the principles, again, 1927 is when the 33 principles was published by Joseph Strauss, right? Is that right? And never had to be recalled, never had to, and we just continue on with these, and they've never changed. They've never needed to change. And
Never killed anybody.
yeah, that's the beautiful thing. So life is necessarily the union of this intelligence and the matter of a living thing, brought about by the creation of a specific internal biological forces. So let me just read that again. It just is a lengthy sentence, but it basically is all the things we've been talking about up to this area or up to this time. So that information superhighway, that's what we're always working with as chiropractors. But life is necessarily the union of this intelligence and the matter, which is the body, of a living thing, brought about by the creation of specific internal biological forces, which is that innate doing all the things. Is basically, that's what the bottom line, brass tacks, is innate doing all the things. And the more that information superhighway can exist free of interference along it, the better off we are. So that's, the beautiful triune of life.
Well, that goes to, we keep using the example of what's the difference between you, alive, or dead.
Mm-hmm.
So dead is just matter.
You're right.
It's matter without movement. It's matter without intelligence.
Yep.
But alive is matter with movement down to the cellular level.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about how, this bottle has movement. There's movement at the very cellular level of this bottle, if you will. Everything is vibrating at some level.
Mm-hmm.
And so as alive humans, we have a certain level of vibration that is driven by innate intelligence, and that intelligence moves our matter, and then it's just becomes that circular triune of life, which I just love, because you can't have one successfully without the other. And I say successfully because if we are interfering with innate, meaning we have some kind of irritation to our nervous system, whether that's a physical stress, so scar tissue, a previous injury, you sit all day, or you've had a trauma, or you have a chemical stress, toxins in your food, the environment, the water, things you put on your skin, or you have an emotional stress, driving through construction, relationship issues, financial issues, whatever that is, all of that physical, chemical, emotional can throw off and put interference into the nervous system. And so we want to be able to open up the nervous system, allow it to function clearly, so that your body can then have its greatest capacity for self-healing. So we don't want to dampen those signals, which is what we're doing every single day. So that's the recognition of, is your innate intelligence functioning at its best? And if you have any kind of anything going on, then no. And if you're not sleeping, if you're not moving, if you don't have good relationships with yourself or with the people around you, if you have poor mental outlook, there's so many things that will interfere with that. Not just, I have a chronic health issue, but you have to look at the things that we do day to day in life. Did you drink enough water? That will put enough interference into your nervous system to make it not function properly.
I had this patient reach out to me one day, and I might have already shared this months ago, but she reaches out behind the scenes and says, "Hey doc, I drank whatever it was. We're supposed to have half of our body weight in ounces minimum per day, right? So let's just say she's 150. I don't know. It was 70 something that she had. Hey doc, I drank my 75 ounces of water today. I'm like, great. Start again tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome. It should be by default. We do that, but dehydration is such a big key to, oh my gosh, so many things. And we really underestimate the simplicity of getting hydrated is relatively simple to do. It's, there's water everywhere and we can just, move on with our day and just make sure you're chugging water. I mean, this is my second filling of this bottle here, but it's a constant thing. But I was also talking to that patient who's an esthetician in those postures. So that forward posture that life puts us in protection mode, right? Well, that happens to be somebody who's doing a facial. That's their regular posture over their patients. Facial, nails, hair, teachers, all the things. So that posture creates stress hormones released from the brain. So once the body recognizes that posture, it goes into that stress mode, increases cortisol over a short period of time. When you're running and fleeing from a tiger, that's good. Cortisol chronically over a long period of time, just due to your posture, that'll kill you. It really will. And so this woman, she's young, right? So she has been an esthetician for 4 years. She just finished her bachelor's degree as well. She had most of it done before she went to esthetician school. Then she's been an esthetician for 4 years, and she was studying for the last year and a half, finished her bachelor's just about a couple of weeks ago. And anyway, I said, okay, so if you're 4 years into this career, everything hurts. She's in good shape. Everything hurts. She's moving her body regularly. Add another 10 years, 20 years, 30 years to that. What are we going to do to make sure that we can reduce even the stress hormones in the body? Make sure she's not growing in that forward fixed position. Like, what are we going to do? Yoga is one option to help. Movement, stretching, all of those things, making sure we're sleeping, drinking water, and not doing all of that. But I got to tell you, without getting adjusted, even her massage therapist is like, I can keep working through this, but you need to get to the core of this. And I only know one way. We can only take our body to 80% of our own range of motion is available to us, 80% range of motion. Chiropractors work in the paraphysiological space, which is 80 to 90%. You got to get to that 80 to 90% that you can't get on your own. You can't get it. And so we have to, and I got to tell you, if you're not seeing a chiropractor by this point, especially if you're listening to us, but just in general, you're doing yourself a major disservice now and in the future.
Yeah. And it's the pay for it now or pay for it later, right? So how are you going to do that? I mean, I had a new patient this week or last week, can't quite remember. I don't know what day it is because I'm still a little jet lagged, but it's interesting how we compartmentalize the things that we go through, and that she looks healthy on the outside. So this is also just a big misnomer, is that looks healthy on the outside. Came in because she had some neck pain, and I'm palpating, I'm pushing on her muscles, I'm moving her spine around, and she is like concrete in her muscles. I mean, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I said to her, she didn't volunteer the information to me, but this was during the examination after I had done her history. And I said, have you ever had any digestive issues? She goes, oh, yeah. I had, she's like, I don't know if you'd call it IBS or, something like that. And I said, okay. And then I went into malabsorption, and I said, your muscles aren't getting the proper nourishment, which is why they harden and tighten. And then you have nervous system interference, which is also why they harden and tighten, because they're trying to splint your spine. Turns out I had alopecia since she was like 15. Oh, and all these issues go way back, and she's like 55. So you have to connect the dots. Mm-hmm. You have to not ignore the things that happened way, way back when, because those can often be the telltale sign. And in order to get your nervous system to where it needs to go, it's going to take some time. Principle number 6. Yeah. Because you can't take a lifetime of issues and then, you come in and you're like, oh, I have neck pain. That it's not just the neck pain. It's all the things that have led up to now you're feeling this this neck pain.
Right.
So, keep that in mind. And again, now it's paying for it later. It's 50, 40 years later for her. And we are trying to now unravel the onion or the twine,
Right.
whatever you want to call it.
Right. And, what do they say when you're making a change? Like today is the best, or yesterday is the best day to start to make the change. But if not, then definitely today, like just get started somewhere, some way. Just do it. I've noticed even myself, I notice when, I don't know, when I'm trying to fill my, I don't know if I'm trying to like work with stress or work with anxiety or what I'm trying to do, but I tend to like the first thing we're doing is reaching for some sort of social media or some sort of, even for me, podcast. I'm so glad that you said that because I've been doing some walks and well, fortunately my dogs keep me super present. Right. So even as I'm out dog walking, I don't listen to podcasts, but it is really good to just like figure out a way to settle because the cortisol is so high for all of us. But getting out and getting the movement, getting in and getting adjustments are like Control Alt Delete for the body. And we get to have that reset. And when you start to do that multiple times a week to get corrected, but then beyond that, once a week or once every 2 weeks or no less than once every 3 weeks, just to maintain and stay ahead of it all is like, it's the greatest. It really
And
is.
doing all the other things. And
yeah.
And this is also just paying attention. I was traveling, so no secret. We've already talked about that. I traveled to California, so it's a 3-hour time change. I drank a lot of wine. I was in Napa. I ate a lot of things I wouldn't normally eat. And I wouldn't say I ate particularly unhealthy, but it was a lot of flatbreads and a lot of, pizzas. It was things that I just don't normally eat. I had a bellyache for about 3 days after I came home. I slept pretty well there because I was in a quiet hotel room. But, the whole point of it is that I've had to take this whole week to really make sure that I am in alignment with my health goals and values, that I'm even more tuned in to what my body needs so that I can get my sleep reset, so I can, get my movement reset. I didn't really exercise when I was out there. I mean, we walked around, but our timing was such that it was, going from point A to point B with a group of people. So you're sort of like locked into that. So you just need to pay attention. And I've had this conversation with you guys before, is that when you're going to do something, prepare for it.
Yes.
And then post-pair for it, right? And that's just my word. I don't know. But which is what I did, right? I knew I was going. I knew it was going to be indulgent. I knew it was going to be a lot of wine. And it was. I mean, you're in Napa. What are you going to do? So.
Right. Yep. No, but, it's when you're talking about, preparing and then post. I don't know what is the word for that.
I don't know what that would be, but I'm like post-pair. Like what?
Yeah.
There's got to be a word. We got to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah. So my parents go to Florida for 3 months. So they just got home 2 days ago. My mom was in getting adjusted this morning. And, I have sent many of my snowbirds down to Florida with a referral to somebody because they're like, I don't know if I can go to 3 months. And so, when I send people down there, it doesn't pan out. Chiropractic in Florida is very, very different than chiropractic in Michigan. It's a different population. It's a different kind of people aren't adjusting anymore. They're just doing therapies because they're, working on a different age range and all of that. So I haven't actually successfully sent anybody and co-managed anybody in their winter months down there. My mom came back today and she feels good. They're exercising and building strength all the time. But she said, you know what? I just kind of have come to the knowing that I will build my internal resilience as much as I possibly can while I'm home. And then I'm going to bank on sunshine, water, exercise, movement. Like I'm going to bank on some of the other things and not really find the right chiropractor. The other part is the offices are so busy and full of people that they can't get new patient visits either. Like it's like 3 or 4 weeks just to get into some of these offices down there. And then when they get there, they're not getting what they want anyway. So I'm just going to kind of give up on that unless there's some direct person that I know, just like I do. But my mom had a great point this morning. She's like, you know what? I'm going to do my best when I'm here to and she comes in weekly to get adjusted. And I have red light therapy and I have the laser. And so she's doing all this stuff starting the second day back here. And not because she doesn't feel good, but she's like, I need to just spend my time building my internal resilience and doing all the things, including getting adjusted while I'm here, so that when I'm away, I can take a little bit of time away and not have to try and seek out some random. And, I've had some really interesting conversations and talks and feedback from some of the offices that I've sent people to. So anyway, regardless,
Great
internal
mindset.
resilience. Yeah.
I mean, it really is a great mindset. And that's all we can do, right? So doing
just
the
like
best
you're
we can.
traveling, like just do the best you can before, maybe even go into maybe a little bit of caloric deficit, super greens or something like that, so that your body can handle the level of inflammation you're willing to take for pleasure, because you're in a very pleasurable place.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
amazing there.
God, it was
Oh
so
my
beautiful.
gosh.
It really just filled me with joy. It was really, really wonderful. I was so happy to be out there. Again, I disconnected. I didn't do any work for the office, which I'm, Erica knows me. I'm like constantly working on something. It felt good to not work on anything. It felt good not to be on social media. It felt good to be connecting with friends. So those are all the things that fill your bucket. And, we talk about sleep and eating and water and all of that, but don't forget about joy. Joy is so beneficial. Joy and social connection and those friendships. And, like Erica had her experience with her friends in Colorado, those connections are healing. They are part of a longevity lifestyle. When these communities, these centenarian communities, they all have a sense of community. It's a social sense of community, and they help each other. And there's a joyful connection there. So don't discount that. And I know a lot of people don't really have a lot of that either. So if you don't have it, you got to seek that out. Find a community of some sort, whether it's a community center or some like a common, a gardening club or something where somebody has similar interests than you, and you can connect with same and like-minded people. And that is actually going to help your body heal as well. So.
Well, the baby boomers generation is the biggest, obviously, as we all know, the biggest generation moving through our system. And so they are headed down, and a lot of them are down in communities down south or for part of the season. And I didn't realize, one of my patients told me the other day that there's an agreement in some of these communities that once you wake up in the morning, you need to open your blinds on certain windows on your home. So otherwise people will go in and check on you. So it's like a known thing that you like set up this agreement with your community that my blinds will be open by such and such a time as long as I'm well. And if it's not, then you guys know to come in. And so I just thought that's a huge sense of community. Absolutely. Of like, thank you. Like such a subtle thing to just crank open your blinds in one particular window and just call it good for the day. And if you didn't do that, then you got people looking out for you. So
that's an amazing community.
Yeah, I didn't realize that happens.
Yeah.
Learning all kinds of things every day.
Well, that's amazing. So it is 1:43. Do we want to wrap up this principle and then give some insight to next week?
Yes. So 18, again, the union of intelligence, force, and matter, and just realizing that information superhighway, the clearer, the better. Get yourself adjusted. Life is necessarily the union of this intelligence and the matter of a living thing, brought about by the creation of specific internal biological forces. And it actually goes right into principle number 19, which is the evidence of life. So in essence, the forces that come through the matter and orchestrated by the innate intelligence, the signs of life, are the ability to assimilate, eliminate, grow, reproduce, and adapt, are evidence of the intelligence of life. So the evidence of life. So that's basically it. So as you're going through this next week, think about how incredible this intelligence moves us through this world, and we have the ability to assimilate, eliminate, grow, reproduce, and adapt. And it's not things that you and I have to think about on the daily. Thank goodness we would fail instantaneously. None of us would be able to walk around if we didn't have that innate intelligence on board.
Yeah.
So making sure you're maximizing the intelligence and allowing it to live interference free.
Well, next week's principle is going to be fun. I am looking forward to that. So, well, it's amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. We always appreciate you. Appreciate everybody who shared out this video. We are growing. And so just keep hitting that like button, keep sharing for us, and keep telling everybody to come and join us and learn more about health, wellness, and chiropractic. So we'll see you guys next week. See you Sunday for our Sunday Live, and back again on Monday Reset. So, all right, you guys, love you so much. See you soon. Bye.